You're welcome to this episode of Libation. I have with me a friend, someone who has been a key part of the media industry in the Southeast, someone whose voice on radio carries a lot of weight. He's got millions of loyal listeners across this Enugu State and across the Southeast. Someone who's also a master of ceremony, someone who's a bit of a jokester, and someone who's never tires to tease me, especially since I went and obliged and I got this traditional title. So it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Alex Ogbodo, ace broadcaster, to Libation.
Thank you.
So as tradition on this program, we've done this little bit. We're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, I shall offer him, because again, our tradition is that we have some palm wine and we'll continue our conversation. So we'll be back in a minute. Thank you. Welcome back to Libation. I always assume that everybody I never announce my name, poor tradition. But, for those of you watching for the first time, obviously, I'd like to introduce myself formally. My name is Emeka. I currently work for Afia TV. I host this show called Libation. It's a bit of an experimental talk show where I invite people to my home and we have conversations about their life and their attitude to everything, to life, their journey through life and everything. So on today's episode, I have a special guest, someone who I've been on his show too, on Eastern Eye, someone who's an ace broadcaster, well known across this parts. Again, let me warmly welcome Mr. Alex Ogbodo.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I always like the way you start your show on Eastern Eye, the monologue and...
Yes.
It's I like it.
Anyway, by the way, it feels good to be in the Libation Palace. I
like the way you describe this place as a palace.
The Libation Palace. That's a kind of feeling to it.
Yeah.
It gives you that nostalgia that this is the home where you discuss this sort of things.
Well,
but
it's my home and a little bit of my character as a resident, as I say to anyone. I mean, I hate characterless homes or places or work or something. I always like a place to have a certain character imbued with it. So because I'm a bit of, if it can be charitable to call myself a patron of the arts and things in that nature. So I always like to be like that.
So back to my Eastern Eye intro.
Yeah.
I admire the British style of program prep. I mean, there's no other way to show that you are prepared for a program except the way you start the program. So you can't possibly be starting a talk show and you don't demonstrate to those who want to watch the show that you understand the subject.
Yeah.
And again, knowing that you are preparing for a program that people will watch or listen to, you must piece together something, a few paragraphs, that will convey that message in the shortest possible form, that this is what you intend in doing. So if they're interested, if they find your intro fascinating enough, inviting enough, they will join. I don't like a situation where I would just say, welcome to the program, and I introduce my guest. I feel that there are veterans who are possibly watching or listening that will say, but he didn't prep for the program. That's the first way you show that you have prepped for a program.
I agree. Just let me digress a little bit. You've been for over 2 decades now, you've been in the media space here. And you pretty much established yourself on radio. I know that currently you work at the
Dream FM.
Dream FM, and so you've established yourself as a brand name across. I know there are times when I come home to Enugu, and my dad will be telling me, "Oh, Alex Obodo on your show." Do you sort of feel that you've outgrown this market, or because a lot of people, whether musicians, artists, people in the creative sector, any small thing they've hit it, everybody's running to Lagos or Abuja. Are you comfortable with?
I don't think there's anything as outgrowing a market.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a question of the size of your hunger. Because at the end of the day, there are people who are making billions of naira in this market. So there are factories raking in hundreds of millions on a daily basis. So there isn't anything like outgrowing the market. I think that what is out there is your purpose. What is it you want to do? I'm much more afraid of the legacy I'm leaving behind. I'm much more afraid of how people will see my children 20 years from now and what they will say about me. Other than how much I have, I want my children to enjoy the fruit of my hard work. The way they see, okay, that's Alex Obodo's son or daughter, and they give them what they deserve, not necessarily giving them what they don't deserve. At least they pay attention to them because their father has done just enough to earn a place. If there's a shelf where they keep stuff, he will have, carved his own niche there. It's beyond money. It's beyond money. Because at the end of the day, when you do your beat here and you go, no one remembers how much you have.
It is the memories that you leave behind.
The memory.
Tell me, you do radio, you also do TV, and this is a bit of a. I'm sure you were expecting me to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you prefer?
Okay, I started by doing TV and radio at the same time.
So really? Okay,
yeah,
ESBS.
I started with Enugu State Broadcasting Service. But there's a bit of backstory to that.
Okay.
My becoming a broadcaster was born many years before the time I started. I think it was maybe 1988 or so, 1988 I think. There's this football match that happened between Rangers and Ranchers Bees. I never get tired of telling this story. So one of those days I just strolled into the stadium because the stadium is just within walking distance to where we lived. So the police canine units, they were just on rampage. So they let go of the dog for a few seconds and people ran and I fell. So at that point I felt a strong hand grab me and put me inside the OB van or the ABS. Just placed me in there. The OB van was cold. It was cold. So immediately put me in there. A man was running commentary inside the OB van with about 3 or 4 screens in front of him. So he was running commentary. I sat there and watched the first half of Rangers Ranchers Bees. So at halftime, they let me go and I went home to watch the remainder of the games on my father's President black and white TV.
TV set.
So after that time, something started happening. I started running football commentaries, interior monologue. So I would just simulate a football match, knocking about bottle cocks, and I'm running the commentary myself. I will simulate that I'm playing against another team. I also simulate the crowd response to a goal. So it was funny because my mother was freaking out at that point. He thought I had gone bonkers. She didn't know that something was funny.
Yeah, something was brewing inside of you.
So it's now that I actually remember what was going on. I guess this is how God curated me to be in this sector.
But you haven't answered my question though.
Which one I prefer.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like saying your left hand and your right hand. Which one do you prefer? Because I think that radio and TV has merged. They've merged.
True.
So, and I tell you something, I cannot choose one. Because radio reaches more people faster. The TV will take a while because you watch the video much later, and again and again, which of course, if you employ social media, it gives it that advantage. But also radio is on social media. Radio stations have social media handles, they have YouTube channels, so you can watch those programs.
Yeah.
So in a way,
There's a convergence.
they have converged. So as you can see, I can't choose one. They have become it's now a situation of
very smart, very smart, very diplomatic. But I like that. You're absolutely right. I had it in my notes. I was going to ask you. I think this is probably the good time to ask that. You talked about this convergence of the media space, and it's something that has just overwhelmed everybody. You have the rise of social media.
But the TV is swallowing the radio.
You think?
Yes.
Haven't we heard that? We had that in the 1930s. You know, studying communication theory.
It's because people on their phones are usually watching. It's easier to watch stuff on your phone than to listen to that thing, keeping the radio beside you. But people listen to their radio in their cars.
But
you can listen to your radio
if you went up north, I won't be. It probably won't be the same. I think if you went to in societies that are very itinerant, very nomadic, you still find I mean, in the north, you hear stories of people who sell phones and gadgets who tell you that if you're selling a phone that doesn't have FM radio, you haven't started.
But I guess if I was in the north, I would have been a cult hero. Yes. I remember doing my youth service in the north and doing analysis for I think it was 2000 and, I can't remember the Nations Cup. I think 2004 Nations Cup, 2004 January. I was going for analysis on KBTV. So on one of those occasions, I had warned that Nigeria could lose the game if they were not careful. Unfortunately, Nigeria lost the game. So when I came back to my lodge, the feedback was instantaneous that I should say something nice about
next time, so that we'll win, yeah.
So they react. The way they react about media messages is a bit more impactful than how we do down
south.
Yeah, we're a little more delayed. So I guess I could have been a cult hero in the north if I'm on radio in the north.
Yeah. But you are. I mean,
I know what I mean by that.
Yeah, I also understand you. I mean, the words unspoken sometimes are, but I get what you mean. I find that the convergence that you talked about of the media space, social media being an arbiter of all of this convergence, or the vehicle with which this convergence is brought to everyone's doorstep. I'm sure over the last 3 years, you've seen the clamor for censorship of social media or regulation of social media. I think that's a euphemism. You've probably heard where our regulator, a place that I worked for a couple of years ago, we talked about lots of fines. As they say, we're sharing fines everywhere. Do you believe that our media space is freer now because of this democratization of media, this convergence? Or do you somehow think that the democratization, the convergence, the ubiquity of social media has made us, let's say, less influential or even more dangerous? What's your perception in terms of the impact of our media? Okay, let me put it this way. I think I'm just speaking a whole lot of things. But do you think that the media space requires more regulation, or we should or less?
Fine. The media need regulation. But the question is, why do they want to regulate the media? I'll just give you an instance. If there was no social media, Better Aid wouldn't have been suspended. I can tell you that for free. The suspension you saw was because it's everywhere on cyberspace. People are talking about it and condemning the government about how all the monies Nigeria may have managed to make in the last 6 months may have been poured into the humanitarian ministry, and they've just squandered it. So imagine for a moment there was no Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or X, where people have this conversation.
Is that why you think that governments want to control?
Yes, they are struggling to cope with the speed of information flow. And I also think there is a capacity problem. Do you even understand what you want to regulate? Because if you want to understand whether Nigeria can, you look at the TV and radio stations owned by government, how they are run. So how they are run will tell you whether they understand Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's a very simple analysis. So it's about politics, really. I feel that all the talk about media regulation is politics. And why is it that the only time you hear that is when there's been a pushback from either the youths or this or that? They start telling you they want to regulate so that people insult government officials.
Very recent thing where I think there's this new narrative or mantra on social media about no grief for anybody. And then the police spokesperson for the police was saying that is a very dangerous slogan, and that young people should not. And then of course the army, who appear to be more nuanced,
usually more
knowledgeable, more nuanced, actually used it to the benefit, and in a very, what I thought was a very intelligent, very impactful way. But so I agree with you. We have a theory, I'm a student of regulatory economics and regulatory policy. We always say that you do not regulate something you do not understand. You shouldn't, actually. And the first question is, why do you want to regulate something? And then you start thinking of how do you want to regulate, and for what purpose? In other words, because sometimes, and I remember when I say this to people in the work, in my regulatory job role, and I say sometimes when there's an issue, doing nothing is an option. And they say, what do you mean we should not do anything? We should do something. DG must do something. I'm like, no, we're not going to do anything, because we don't fully understand the phenomena that's going on right now. And so doing something without knowledge, without context, without an assessment is actually quite negative. So we should just wait and observe and then take a decision. But everybody's like, and that eye service thing, which is politics, like, the government will not be happy with you if we don't do something. And I'm like, okay, so if we do the thing, and usually, and it's been my experience, that 9 times out of 10, when we do that thing, we always make mistakes. The outcome becomes even much more more negative, or has more negative consequence. Because good intentions, as you and I know, it's often very...
Yeah, because typically they are responding to...
By the way,
pressure
what do you think of this? From why not Ozala? By the way, this is from Ozala, from your place. Agwange, Oha. Etion where?
Bye. I can feel it.
On this note, we'll take a break so that we can. And we'll be back in a minute. So if you have any drink, just join us and pour your own libation, and so you join us in spirit. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to Libations. I have with me Mr. Alex Ugodo. I just told him, and he has verified that
Yes.
And I said to someone that probably I'd have drank a few from Udi, but I think my Ozala.
I guess the only divergence is the quantity. We don't have
Yes, yeah.
We don't have the quantity.
Udi has
they
more.
do.
Yeah. But I proposed a theory to them in that gathering, and I said it's possibly because Ozala is on a lowland, so there's a runoff of the. This is me. I don't know anything about soil thing. I'm just, but obviously the results of the palm wine is excellent. So, Ndio Ozala, yeah. This I have to say thank you for this. You've you know, right now you're news. You're head of news at Dream FM. But just listen to you, and I think that everyone who's watching now will say, "Oh, your first intro into broadcasting, as the story you told us was, as a young person, an incident, and running into an OB with a live, and you." So you and we've seen. I think when we did the Bologbe, where you provided commentary, and that was awesome. I really loved it. So you have a passion for football, for soccer.
The very first thing I did on radio was sports as a student broadcaster in the year 2000. So I found myself in one restaurant in Abapa.
Yeah, excuse me.
I was just hanging out with some of my friends in the university. So, but I noticed there was this veteran broadcaster then. His name is Joningu. By the way, shout out to Mr. Joningu. He was there having lunch. So, then in school I used to be known as a Sophie suit because of my comic nature. Just to make people laugh, and I get paid some money. Bought quite a few textbooks just doing comic strips. So I just said something funny. He just looked up and said, that was really funny. And I wanted to know more about me. I told him my name, and before he could look up, I told him his name, the name of his program, and the time of the program. He was like, So he was more interested and asked me to see him in his office. I think this thing was happening on a Thursday, asked me to see him on a Monday. So I came around on a Monday, and he gave me, I think it was Sporting Champion at that time, and asked me to read out a portion so that he can hear me. I tried. I believe I did my best at that point. He said I sounded fine. And, from that point, he started giving me small portions of the sports news to read during his program. The name of the program then was Sports Extra by Joningu. I think it comes 1:30 every Wednesday. I remembered back then. So just from that, my classmates at that time would say, "We are still learning, and you already practiced."
Yeah.
So from there, it progressed to something else. There was another classmate of mine, she's Obamwale. I think she's married now, no longer bearing that. But she had a challenge with her sight. She wanted me to take her to ESBS at that time. She was part of another program, but it's a youth program called Trendy G. So when we got there into the office of the Deputy Director of Programs at that time, her name was Maudlin Okbara. May God rest her soul. Yeah. So when we got there, she wouldn't stop asking me questions. From one question to a follow-up question. And then finally she now asked me, "Won't you join us?" That was how she put it. "Won't you join us?" So the TDB. So fast forward, I joined. It was Mrs. Okpara that molded the very research-minded production guy. Because the very first training I got was how to piece together your content. Because she believes it's more important than going on air. That's why that's why some people crash land right in the first 6 months of the experiment. You have to know what you are putting out. So you must sculpt your content so that by the time you go on air, you have confidence in going all the way.
And so, even because I see that a lot of people just a bit like they're glamour models for television. I know that since we started Afia here, everybody wants to be on TV, and sometimes even we get interns to do one work, and maybe someone didn't turn up and they go on camera and they do one. Then they leave every other thing.
Yeah.
But they don't have that experience.
Yeah, if you want to know the depth of anyone who says he wants to go on there, ask them to put it down on paper. Throughout the time I've been in this line of work, you find young persons coming to say, I have this relationship program I want. So what is it about?
Put it down.
Yeah, no.
Right.
First of all, they want to have a conversation with you. So what is it about? It's a relationship program. We just discuss relationships, and then people will call in. It's okay. Is it that you just come there and ask people to call in? What would happen before you get them to call in? Because you must lure them to your program. What will be that thing that will bring them to your program? Or you think other people are not doing something similar? Why not write this thing down, this concept? So I don't believe anyone that wants to go into the media space, wants to do this and that. The moment you cannot put it down, the moment you cannot have a plan, I mean, if, like here, there's a floor plan. There's a floor plan, even if they take away all those cameras. The guys who set this up, Afia and Co. and Tochukwu, they know how this is. They know the marks. That should be a floor plan. So even if a novice comes in here, he can take up. I anchor a program on radio called Political Voices. That is a plan. So if another person takes over from me, that is a plan. I can't change that plan. So you have to have a plan. And it's something you pick up very early in your career. I usually tell people who are getting into the media space, the first 6 months is very important. So if you miss out in knowing how to put down the idea is like the basic level. And then how do I get this idea across? One thing is you want to be rich. Then how do you want to be rich? Then, how do you get people to listen to that idea? And then the whole, if it's a 30 minutes program, if it's a 1 hour program, you have to spread it. How do I distribute those ideas to accommodate the segments I have?
Given
is it going to be phone-in? Is it going to,
There's a thing about our work. I guess, people look at it and say anyone can be a storyteller. Anyone and everyone is a storyteller. But there's certain nuances, there's a method, there's certain skills that are required. There's a way in which yes, everyone is a storyteller, but not everyone is Chimamanda or Chinua Achebe, because they have mastered the art of storytelling. And when they tell the same story, I can say the same story, but Chimamanda puts it. Yeah. And it's not because she is Chimamanda, it's because of the skills that she has.
But then in the same breath, not everyone has read Things Fall Apart. Yeah. But a lot of people have watched Things Fall Apart that Peter Docho interpreted. So, like they will say, you have your special talent, I have mine. So while you're the bookie, someone else might be the salesman. There are people that can sell ice to you when it's raining. So it's snowing in London and someone is telling you that you need ice cold beer.
I want to ask you, it's not a tricky question. You started from ESBS, and ESBS was an impactful institution. I know that at least when Jim Wobudo set up ESBS, and I was here in Enugu, that it was probably one of I think it was touted as the best TV station in Africa at that time, Channel 50 what it was. We had all the best equipment and everything. I think it was modeled after a TV channel, if I remember, channel coming from Arkansas, from America. It had the best everything. And today, it's just a bit of a shell. It's not.
Yeah,
What do you think? What do you think happened?
There was the question you asked me about regulation, and I told you go and look at how publicly owned TV and radio stations are faring. So now, at the time, ATV, at the time it was called ATV. When it started, it was the first colored UHF station in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
It was said that governors from the north used to come to Nike Lake to lodge to watch ATV. I mean, there are people who witnessed this. They can corroborate what I'm saying. So I guess what happened and what is still happening is politics. All right. So if you want to have a world-class media house, you can. But then the question is, for how long? For how long? Because at the time Jim was there, they had everything. And then Jim left. There was a bit of politics as at 1983 because Alandit was closed for 3 months after CCONO won. Because they found themselves on the other side of politics.
Yeah.
Obviously, you will support your governor.
Yeah, and Jim was the governor at that point.
Of course, CCONO didn't like that, and the place was shut down for some time. So situations like this will not allow public-owned media houses to grow because politics is always getting in the way of creativity.
So our politics appears to, or the kind of politics we practice or we play in this country, appears not to be the kind of politics that, it's uplifting or develop. It's just, and it breaks my heart to think about it. And, given the examples, I know I've been in it, I've seen it, it has happened to me, and it's just so worrisome. Do you think, given all of those things, then there's hope that our politics can be steered back to the politics of development, the politics of caring about, the vast majority of the population, our security? I mean, you and I have been here in the Southeast over the last couple of years dealing with UGM and Monday sit-at-homes and all the heightened rates of. In fact, one of my staff was mugged just during the Christmas holiday, and thankfully she came away with her life, even though badly injured. So do you think there's hope? Do you have hope for our politics and our politics and the resultant effect on the economy, on development?
I am an unrepentant optimist.
It says so in your bio.
Yes, I believe the cup is half full and not half empty. I think that what is lacking is enough empathy for the people that are not getting enough. There's this.
Who's gonna give empathy? Is it the politicians that don't currently have empathy are suddenly going to wake up
because we know
on the side of the bed that has empathy, or are we going to force them into?
It's because we know it's possible. If you take your mind back to when Jim was governor and Mbakwe was governor, the kind of things they achieved, they are mind-boggling. And now we are struggling to see flyovers, struggling to see properly tarred roads. It's about the conviction of whoever is in power, controlling resources, knowing that whatever you do within 4 years or 8 years, that's what will be your legacy. That's what will be your legacy. In Enugu State, the legacy of whoever has been governor is embedded in the minds of the people. If you want to find out, you go and do a vox pop. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, if you want to know how well the governors are fared, you go and do the vox pop yourself. Because if you want to do well, you can do well. You decide the type of man you want to be. Think the Bible says something about you decide the God you serve. Decide for yourself today the God you will serve. So it's either you work for the people or you work for yourself and your friends. So when you finish the government, you'll find out whether you and your friends did the job or you just did whatever pleased you and your friends. Because at the end of the day, it's the people that will say that this person has done well. I mean, it's not, nobody can falsify whether a governor or a president has done well. We can see it.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it was 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? During the American elections, you were part of the team that went to observe and reported on the elections in the U.S. And the reason I asked this question is the point we just talked about now, the issue around the kind of politics we practice here. and the kind of politics they practice over there and the role of the media. We saw the former U.S. president and Trump and his rather, how should I put it, flamboyant style of leadership. And of course, the crisis that occurred afterwards with, I think they call it the January 6th insurrection, and how the media reported it. We saw here, I think that same year, months before, the what do they call it now? The police brutality, NSAS demonstrations, and then the violence that occurred. Within these two, at least you've spent considerable amount of time in the US covering that. What's your perception in terms of, again, because this is very fundamental, we're in the same business, how the role of the media, do you think we are doing enough in shaping narratives? And is it because the media is fundamentally controlled by politicians? Or,
what I think, and let me start with what I saw in the US in 2022 November. It was midterm. And you will know immediately when you come to the US that when you're watching a channel, you will know whether they are for the Democrats or for the Republicans, the way they approach stories concerning them. If there's a negative story about the Republicans, the way a Fox TV or Fox News will report it will be entirely different. They will probably just parry it as against how CNN will report it. CNN seems to be more cozy with stories about Democrats, and go all hard on the Republicans. They don't have to say they are supporting anyone, but it's there. If you come to Nigeria, it's the same. There are certain TV stations, when they are discussing the opposition, they don't hold back. It's like, it's all jabs and uppercuts. When they are discussing the government, they are relaxed and almost celebrating. So this determines how the complexion of our politics will shape up. Again, the difference is, when I was in the US, except that we visited one of the election board officials in Washington, I didn't make contact with another elections board person. And they organize their elections on statewide basis. So there is no central INEC. So because the major problem here is that we are centralizing everything.
Yes.
Imagine finishing an election in Enugu
and having to go to Abuja.
Someone will carry it on a briefcase and fly to Abuja. I'm still ashamed that that is happening. I think that's a very big shame that we're still doing it. That people can actually come on national TV and defend it. That after an election has held in my local government of Nkano West, and then it will now be gathered, and then everyone will come to Enugu, the capital, and they compile sheets of paper. And then all the local governments in Enugu will be compiled, and then someone will fly it physically to Abuja. That's the most shameful thing that is happening in Nigeria, and it's still happening, because the courts have endorsed that it will continue happening. That is at the heart of the credibility of our election, because those sheets of papers can be manipulated on transit. So that is it. That's where the transparency of our election are actually hinged. The more papers you involve in the elections, the more manipulation. The moment you allow someone to shift from that polling unit.
Wasn't it Stalin, Joseph Stalin, the former communist leader of Russia, that said something, USSR sent them something that was funny. He says, doesn't care about the people who vote. He says it's the people who counted that are more important.
Sure. And that's exactly what
that's exactly what we're seeing in the elections. But it's sad that we're there. We're going to, I don't want to end our conversation on this rather dour, sour note. So we'll go on a break. We'll sip some more of our Pami from Ozala. And then we'll come back in a minute. Thank you for joining us. Please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly.
Welcome back. Alex, it's been an interesting almost half hour plus of conversation with you. And this is the difficulty in talking to someone who is very good at interrogating as an interviewer yourself, because you're very good at it.
I haven't been interviewed.
Huh?
I haven't been interviewed a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, but also,
But I'm sweating under my skin.
No. I mean, look, I've sort of developed an attitude to speaking and talking and interviewing people. For example, on this show, because we have no set topic, there's no agenda. The only agenda is just to, like I said, to have a conversation with a friend over some drink and just talk about their personal life and work and things like that. There's no agenda. I'm not trying to. I know someone watched it. They say, "Okay, but you're not hard hitting." I say, "I'm not trying to dig for gold or to discover." It's just two people. I'm not. Yeah, it's not hard talk or whatever. It's just two friends having a talk, and which makes it. That's a difficult part, but also the fun part in a show like this, because it's not formulaic, and I'm not trying to say gotcha. There's no gotcha moment. We're not trying to do something so that it will trend. Sure. We're just having a friendly banter, and I think a lot of people sort of expect something, given the way interviews go on TV, people are expecting like, ask him this, ask him that. I'm like, no, we're just talking. It makes it easy for me though, because I can have that conversation. I can do my monologues. And my guests can also ask me questions. Sure. I had Freddie Wenjora, my old friend and colleague. We worked together many years ago. The day I had him here, I think my producer, everybody was like, because he was harassing me, but it was great. It was a great conversation we had. I want to ask you though, your wife is also in the media.
Sure.
Isn't it like, what is it in the army when a soldier, an officer has a madam because it's like, how do you guys cope with the kids? Because media work very odd times. How do you guys manage all of that?
Gillian Sinclair Obodo. We've come a long way. I've known my wife since 2008. So you can say that we're soulmates. And funny enough, I met her in ESBS. She was an intern. And later, after she stopped interning, she joined a program I created called Youth Plaza, because we were young then, so we could do Youth Plaza. I only scripted that program once. So the subsequent editions were scripted by her. By the way, my wife is a screenwriter.
Okay.
AMA-trained screenwriter. I mean, I guess I do the talking,
but she is.
Yeah, but she's also very good on air. She's currently deputy head of programs at Energy Radio, Energy FM here in Enugu. So she's been around. A lot of people don't get to see that because I'm like the poster boy.
Yeah.
But then I also, when it comes to my wife, that you can understand. So she's been a strong pillar. I'm not sure all the shining stuff you're seeing around me would happen without my wife. She's been the solid rock beside me.
That's brilliant.
So it's I don't know whether that's a woman that will be as understanding.
There's no sense of competition career-wise in terms of this person may be doing better than
No. Actually, it's if you like. This is me trying to form King Kong. I think we have become the media power couple.
Oh,
yes. Yeah. I mean, so, and gradually we are getting to the top of the food chain. So that's what it is. And what I like is that my wife is always pushing the limits. She's always trying to create something, and she's someone who likes writing things down.
There's a question that I said I was going to be remiss. I actually wrote it down. That I said, because you do a lot of your side hustle is you do a lot of MC.
Yeah.
And you're a bit like a comedian, because half of
Yeah,
the time the things that comes out of your mouth.
Yes.
Do I lie, guys? The thing that comes out.
Even from my time in Esut,
Yeah.
I used to do comic strips. I used to, recreate the Afia character. So I made a lot of money doing that. I only paid for picnic once, all my stay in the university. Only paid in my first year, because that's the year I came in. The subsequent years, they would just go, "Oh, Afia." And then I get paid the exact amount they will pay the MC to come and talk for 5 minutes. Just dangle around on stage for 5 minutes. I still get paid the same amount you pay the MC. So, and that, I'm not surprised what's happening now for comedians. They get paid humongous amounts of money because they make people laugh. My only worry is that some people who are comedians are not great MCs. Nobody should get me.
Yeah, that's true.
Should misunderstand me here. If you have a formal event and you want a comedian, he should perform at a time.
And then
he shouldn't be
the MC.
No, pay him whatever his fee is, but he shouldn't be the guy running the whole show, because that mix of character sort of, messes up the psyche of the event.
There are very few of you who can do that, though, because and I think I think it's KOK that said to me many years ago, not even on Libations, but he had said this thing to me. I think it was around 2005-06. There was an issue around a particular actor. He said the problem with that actor is that he continues to act even when he's at home. When he's no longer on set.
When the director cut.
He will continue to act, not just on set, even in his own, amongst friends. He will continue to act his character, and then it hit me, because that's the point you're sort of, or the thing and sense I'm getting out of it is that comedians forget there's a distinct difference between being a master of ceremony
and being a comedian
and doing comedy.
Sure.
You can be a master of ceremony and with humor.
Sure.
Okay, but still maintain the flow of the events.
You must maintain the character.
Ali Baba is a perfect example of an MC who, in fact, I see, he'll be upset if he sees this, I see him as probably the best MC who also does humor, who also uses comedy. But, not that he's not a great comedian, he is. But I think for me, his core skill is how he manages events. When you see Ali Baba manage an event, okay, Bakassi also does a bit, but Ali Baba is like, he
manages to tuck it in.
Yes.
Know when to tuck
no
in.
excesses. No excesses. No, not forcing people to laugh, because a lot of comedians, they get the opportunity, they want to force everybody to laugh, and they forget even the kind of jokes they bring.
That is the reason why the occasion was put together. I think what you do in an occasion will be dependent on the theme of that occasion. Is it an occasion that requires that people should roll around laughing? Or is it something a little solemn? You must read the mood of the room before you crack jokes. If Nigeria is in mourning, you don't come to a state event and start cracking lots of jokes. one or two will be fine, but you must know that there has to be a limit to everything. I forgot to add, though, that part of my side hustle is voiceovers. I do lots of voiceovers. I do productions. I have a little setup called Gilex Media. I'm the team leader. We are still, growing it. It's still in the nursery form. We're, doing some productions, live streaming here and there. Because, the whole idea is not in being a forever presenter.
Yeah.
You have to, at some point, think about
producing,
going back and allowing
your own stuff.
The younger ones to grow. And I believe in mentoring young people. there are opportunities you get to get the young ones to see how it's done without necessarily having to dictate for them ABC and 1, 2, 3. There are things they will do, just call them. You can try this, you can try that. But ultimately, the person will be the one to try it. Don't force it.
Yeah,
sometimes when you force it, it becomes bullying. And that's the problem.
Do you think, sorry, I have to say this before I lose my train of thought, because I had it at the earlier part of this conversation and it sort of skipped my mind. Do you think that in the Southeast, the prospects for the media, I think I sort of asked you that, but I wasn't I want to ask you now directly that the market, the industry, the advertisers, the business, there is a lot of room for growth for people in entertainment and media business in the Southeast per se, because you see like a Jerick who started here as number one. Enugu loves him. The Southeast loves Jerick. Jerick has emigrated to Lagos. Have you? So, even before then, people like Fino Abi and Flavor, they've all packed up and so any new person now, I won't be surprised if our own Purple Boy tomorrow says packs up and goes. I mean, I don't blame them, Lagos, but so that's my question. Do you think the ecosystem here can sustain us?
The media ecosystem.
The media ecosystem and entertainment ecosystem.
First of all, there is an imbalance in the ecosystem.
Okay.
We have lots of radio stations, but there isn't enough TV stations. So you're not even showing enough of their talents. And if you have a TV station located in the Southeast, people all over the world can watch it. It boils down to how you are channeling those stories. Where are you beaming to? Who knows you are there? And there is no problem with going to Lagos, but there's a problem with forgetting your roots. I mean, you need to survive. And there are millions of people in Lagos. But then in the Southeast, you have people who are constantly on the move, who want brighter future, who want what they call greener pasture. There's a song called The Grass is Greener on the Other Side. That's what I thought when I took the ride. You burnt your bridges and you never looked back. But then if you only knew that what you're searching for was already yours,
you're bringing that you like to sing too.
We'll get to the point where we could sing. But then there's another song where Lighthouse Family said that if I relocated to where the grass is greener, maybe I'll be happy again. But I'm a little bit disappointed that now the grass is greener, but I'm still looking over the fence. People who've traveled to the US 30 years ago still want to come home, but just for some reason they can't. But that is not to say that people should remain in Enugu if they want to leave.
Yeah.
My point is, there has to be a
growth of that
time where you need to look back. Because there is a peculiar challenge with us here. If we have enough TV stations, and then if there's an event, like you mentioned Jerick, you mentioned Flavor and Fino, they want to do an event. They won't go to Lagos begging a TV station to beam it for them. They already know that they have TV stations with capability, like Afia TV, for instance, that can beam them to the world. So you must have, if you want to produce a car, you must have the technological base to do that. So people can keep talking about, all the people are going to Lagos. If they remain here,
what's going to support
what will
them?
Power them?
Yeah.
Because the public power source wouldn't be enough. And there aren't enough solar panels around here yet.
The venues are not there, the platforms to push TV channels.
There's a value chain that needs to
come up.
And
is there a role for government? Because I saw what Governor Peter Mbah did recently during this past Christmas with the Unity Pack, with the roadblock, bringing back the roadblock, and I was truly amazed looking at the numbers at Kwara Square, For Jerek's concert, for example, that came up. There was a lot of people. It was estimated, I think someone said estimated close to maybe 20, 30,000 people were there. That's a huge number of people. The same thing for the Roadblock concert. You know, we're winding up this interview. My producer is giving me that hand signal that suggests I wrap it up. But I can't wrap this thing up by asking you this question around your Igbo-ness in the context of Nigeria. I mean, the last year and over the last couple of years has been, for all of us who are Igbo, has been quite challenging. Politically, and economically, even everybody's not just Igbo, but everybody across the country. But I think the last elections brought up a lot of hate, a lot of animosity, a lot of tribal bigotry and all kinds of issues. And we saw during the last, especially during Christmas, the resurgence of the Igbo Renaissance, especially amongst young people on social media. For you, what do you place any particular significance on all of the things that have happened, and given your place as an Igbo person? Yeah,
but just before I get to that, I wanted to say something about the entertainment climate.
Okay, please go ahead.
If you want to catalyze the development of a sector, the governor should be visible in that sector. I don't mean his commissioners.
Yes, the governor himself.
The governor himself. If you go to Lagos, Governor Jide Sanwo-Olu,
he's always there. Yes,
he's always there.
Yeah.
So what's the big deal? The biggest economy in Nigeria is in Lagos. But then this system of being an introvert governor, it doesn't work. If you want something to grow, we have to see you in that thing. There's no magic. If you want people to come out and watch Rangers, you have to be there yourself. Yeah. No magic. If you want people to come out and watch Mount Festival or whatever show you're organizing, you have to show your face there. It's no magic. The main guy, the main master.
The main guy is the main guy.
Should show.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife sometimes will quarrel that she's making a meal and I say I wouldn't be around at a particular time, and she will say, why did I waste all the time making the meal? Because usually when a woman is making a meal in the house
with love,
the first thing in her mind is that I'm making this meal for my husband, and then of course for the children. If you say you won't eat, more than 50% of the ration might go away. It's not as if you eat, all you do is to eat, but they have to serve you like a king. If the governor attends events, people will be telling the story. Even Governor Bia, Governor Bia, Governor Tegu. I'll leave it at that. Some things are body language related. I mean, this uptightness needs to stop. This is for the whole Southeast governors. Come out, mix with the people. You are their governor.
Yeah.
You are their governor.
You're the symbol. You're the symbol.
This I am the Lord Almighty thing should go. Jide Sanwo-Olu mixes up. I'm sure you saw what happened in the Tony Elumelu party where he had to, actually talk to Mr. Macaroni because they haven't been talking.
Yeah.
And he asked him, won't you greet me? He spoke in Yoruba. Talk with your people. Talk with your people. What's his name? Your friend, Obi Asika. Is now he's been appointed.
Yeah, DG.
I think we'll figure out. I just forgot the name of the. But
National Council for Arts
and Culture. That's what it is. So that's the move. You see a president who's trying to reach out. The optics is very good.
And I was so impressed with this.
Yes.
With this for the creative Ali Nuhu Film Corporation.
You have to mix up.
Aisha K9, we call her fantastic woman photographer.
So
great.
You can't be uptight and expect things to work. Loosen up, move around. Projects are going on. We need to see you there inspecting them. So coming to the Igbo thing, I found Bukenechukwu. So every person that is Igbo has a Biafranness in him. Nobody can take that away. No.
What do you mean by Biafranness? What does it mean?
Biafranness doesn't mean that you have to be the one fighting for a country.
Well, I mean, I get that.
Yes, and
It's an attitude,
so
it's a mindset, isn't it?
It's something that we are born with. My father told me tons of stories about the war. Same for my mother. So I understand how dangerous war is. So have you noticed that people asking for war are not in Nigeria?
Yeah, which is
So that
which
is
is just
that's beside the point. If you want to be free, unquote, why not make your patch of space profitable?
yeah.
Make it prosperous. Look at Barcelona. They're beating everybody in La Liga a lot of times.
Yeah, and they still have the separatist basque.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
but
still look at themselves as
The
different
biggest
from.
statement you will make is to make sure that all the people around you who are controlling resources are putting those resources to good use.
Yeah,
How many bridges are in the southeast? How many well-paved roads are in the southeast? How many superstructures are in the southeast? So on what basis are you asking for that? So if they decide that you'll be a country today, what infrastructure would you rely on to be that country? So we
don't even have a railway line.
Yes,
we don't even have a road that connects.
we usually claim that we are the most intelligent in the country. Fine. But let's apply it here
That
first.
intelligence too.
Yes. Ima bankata, baya, and Igbo. Let's see it. The taste of the pudding is in the eating. You know, we make a lot of claims. Sometimes I see comments on Instagram and X and Facebook, and where are these guys getting this from? Someone makes a statement about how people should take things easy and organize here. They want it hot. We no go agree for anybody. They want to go and push and destroy everything. And then everybody will coil in and say, you fall back to the government you don't want.
Yeah.
So here, take your government, get them accountable for the resources they are receiving.
At least
What are your
on the
state
local level,
governors?
yeah.
What are your state governors doing with the resources they are receiving on a monthly basis? Instead of attacking the man at the center, how much have they expended on your roads, on your hospitals, on the schools your children will attend? How many super school structures are in the southeast? These are the questions we should be asking. Can do our own area? Can do the That's what it is.
Tire pieces. On this note, I mean, this has been a fascinating conversation with. You guessed it now. When you have a broadcaster as a guest, you know that it's going to be, but not just a broadcaster, someone who is just a perfect gentleman. Everybody loves Alex at Afia TV, and we love the show. We love the Eastern Eye with Alex Obodo. We'll be back. But yeah, so I'm glad to have him as a guest on Libation this episode. Alex, thank you so much, Dalu.
Thank you. We didn't have time to sing. We didn't have time to sing, but that's no problem.
We'll get you one other time. I'm
going to be fun.
So please join us in the next episode. As I promised you, this 2024 season, it's going to be impactful. Even me, I'm growing in this job. Hopefully I get better for you guys. So join me next episode. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.